Welcome back, everyone, for our newest episode of the Arkins Hearth. I am Michael Jason Chandler, and I am your host this evening here at this beautiful dungeon that we live in to record this podcast at Arkins Tavern.
I sleep in the corner.
Yeah, I like the chains on the wall myself. Again, this is Arkins Hearth by Not Dead Yet Productions. And tonight I am joined by
Thorin Wolf, owner and proprietor of Arkins Juice Tavern and Arkins Hearth Gaming. To my right,
the Ginger. My Animal Crossing flag is a picture of Mangle from Five Nights at Freddy's, in case anyone was wondering. And to my right,
Pixie, and I'm flaunting my Labubu's, but you can't see them.
Whoa, calm down.
Wait.
No, I like it.
I brought my my pink one.
Oh, Labubu's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have the lychee berry Labubu, and then I have.
Have your fun now, because
what
this is
this
not
one?
a fun podcast
I think
tonight.
this is the. I don't remember the toffee one. I don't know.
Isn't that one named Bean?
Oh, this is bean,
That's Bean.
and then this is lychee.
Lychee.
Ah.
if you guys want to see pictures of them, we can post it on the socials. Just let us know.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know. So
One has a
tonight,
dinosaur suit.
oh,
Sorry.
what was that?
One has a dinosaur
Yeah,
suit.
Bean's dressed
Well,
like
yeah.
a dinosaur.
I had to make sure people knew that because
To run in
dinosaurs are my
that
favorite.
He's just wearing his pajamas. He's just a chill little guy.
Anyway,
Okay.
sorry for interrupting, Jason.
I know, you're good. All right. So tonight on the Arkins Hearth, we are going to be talking about another serial killer. This time, one that was caught, mostly because it wasn't that intelligent of a serial killer, but we'll get to that.
Local legend.
A local legend. No,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing doing this. And folks, tonight we're going to be talking about Robert Fry, the Farmington serial killer. Everybody called him Bobby.
Bobby.
But we're going to do that. And Robert Fry, he was born and grew up in this area. He killed in this area. He went to prison, arrested by Farmington PD. Literally, we are sitting in the town where he did all his dastardly deeds. And it's an interesting thing because I actually knew two of his victims, and we're going to discuss that later on. Basically, this was really interesting because I had a very visceral reaction writing this, where I kind of relived when two of his victims, Joe and Matt, died.
Yeah.
I knew those guys. One of them I went to high school with. Actually, one of them I'd gone to school with for years. And then Joe and I worked together at the mall, at Animas Valley Mall.
How is your lore so deep?
I'm old. Old people do stuff.
Oh yeah, I forgot you lived
Right.
with the dinosaurs.
Well, I might have been born after the dinosaurs by a year or two.
1678.
Again, born in 1978. Shut up.
I was only a couple hundred years off.
Yeah, well, and a number of years before your daddy would even think about your existence.
You're not wrong.
So tonight we're going to be talking about Robert Fry, and this is going to be kind of a personal episode for me to some extent. I didn't know him well. I did meet him, and I had conversations with him, and I'm not the only one in the room who had at least a conversation with Mr. Fry.
One.
Yeah.
One conversation.
You had one conversation with him. I didn't. I think I talked to him a couple of times. My brother is here as well in town, and he knew a lot more people than knew Robert. They knew a lot of people in common, but I asked him about it, and he said what a lot of people said when I asked, and I asked a lot of people I knew from back then, and they all went, yeah, I knew him. He was weird. He was an odd dude.
A little creepy.
And so I didn't hang out with him. That's what everybody seems to say. But and tonight you'll find out why. So as I said again, tonight we're talking about Robert Fry. He's the man that would become one of New Mexico's most notorious serial killers, if not the only notorious serial killer from Farmington, New Mexico. But while he did not begin as a monster, he was the type of person that, at least to everyone I spoke to, was off. Little off-putting, little odd, and no one seemed particularly surprised that he did bad things. Tonight, our episode's primary sources are going to be Monster Slayer by Robert Scott. It's a book about the crimes of Robert Fry, and that's from 2005. You can look that up online. And Reporting by Jolene Krueger on New Mexico's death penalty decisions. There are a number of other sources that I referenced as well. You can see those in the comments. We'll tell this story not to create any type of myth involving Robert's violence. And from now on, I'm going to refer to him as Fry. But we do attempt to understand how this unfolded, how the system responded, and to recount at least 2 of this podcast host's personal experiences with him. So, a child of Farmington. Robert Fry was born August 18th, 1973, just 4 years before I was born, for my podcasting children. The town we live in and the one we're recording in right now. By the age of 3 in 1976, Fry's grandmother died, removing one of the few stabilizing figures that he had in his life. The same year, he reported that a babysitter and her brothers smeared ketchup all over his head, telling the toddler that this was blood and attempting to scare him.
Where did they find this babysitter?
I don't know. And I'm trying...
This is where it all began.
And we're actually going to do a little bit of what they call serial killer building. And this is a pretty common thing in books and stories about serial killers, where they're going to kind of, Monster Slayer kind of tries to explain some of the formative things with him. I am going to have an opinion about this later, specifically that I don't think anything that was reported about his development even comes close to explaining what he does or who he is. I honestly don't think that he makes sense as a serial killer, but he is one. So we'll get to that as we go. But, in Monster Slayer, that did say that this moment mixed together fear and blood and getting attention in a way that did stick with Fry. At 6 years old, Fry, who was naturally left-handed, was forced to switch to using his right hand in school. This supposedly was a early point in his life where control was taken from him, and it became something that he felt who needed to be corrected. Again, I'm kind of not impressed with that.
I just want to say real quick, why is that something that schools try to do with kids who are left-handed? Because
it was a thing back in the day.
Too.
It was a thing they did more in the back of the day, and it was kind of a make everybody conform thing. My grandma had the same problem.
It matters.
Well, yeah, but scissors, unless you have enough left-handed scissors, there's
It had nothing to do with scissors.
No, it had nothing to do with scissors. But no, I was just making that as they wanted people to conform. They didn't want to build a world around people being different. And I think this is
thing, though. That's a problem in our house. That's a problem in our house.
I think that people often try to make everything fit into a box. And I think that in the past, we were a lot more isolated. We didn't have social media. We didn't have phones. I think it was easier to try to isolate people and make everybody act the same. And so that's where I think that comes from. But maybe I'm wrong, folks. If you know better than I do why they used to make left-handed children learn to use their right hand, leave it in the contacts. Hey, leave it in the contacts. I'm sure I'll be deeply...
You did it again.
Did I say contacts
yes,
again?
You did.
You mean the comments?
Leave it in the comments. I am sure that I'll be so interested I'll bring it up sometime. I won't. I'll probably not even notice.
I will make sure he notices.
Okay.
Because I will be running the socials.
She's right about that. I did make a note here that I consider these early life explanations, or when studying things like H.H. Holmes and you have kids lock him in with a skeleton, actual dead body. Or, you talk about all of the frontal lobe damage that serial killers go through, and it doing brain damage. And you're like, oh, well, this person had mental health issues and brain damage. Or you go to the sexual abuse or the verbal abuse of a Kemper or of the Green River Killer. You start to say, well, they're monsters and nothing that doesn't justify anything they say or they did. But at least you can see where a serial killer was made in what they call that serial killer soup. You can kind of see those triggers. All I see is a kid who gained a little weight, so he's bullied. Who wasn't?
I absolutely was bullied for my weight when I was a kid.
And you didn't murder a bunch of people?
No, actually, there's a lot of things on this list because I have the script in front of me for once.
For once,
and I'm reading through this thing, and I'm like, I should be a serial killer. I shouldn't be, but I mean,
or maybe
I have a moral compass, guys. I'm just saying.
Or maybe these are just weak, and nothing that happened in his past actually justifies what he becomes.
Well, and I'm also going to say, if he's blaming just being bullied on that, I was bullied.
Everyone was bullied.
I know Pixie was bullied. I know that Pixie was bullied. Like, we went to school together. We were probably bullied by some of the same people, let's be honest.
Probably, genuinely. Like, would not surprise me.
I said I was sorry.
Look, dude.
I did not bully them.
I didn't know I went to school with you.
No, yeah, I didn't bully them. I'm well over 20 years older than they are. So yeah, we didn't go to school together because that would be weird, or maybe I was just held back a lot. I don't know.
Let me count. How many years would that be?
A lot.
You don't have enough fingers or toes.
Yeah, well, shut up.
Or toes.
Or toes. You
Or
can
toes.
use pixies. Let's do this now.
Oh, I don't want you to use my toes.
Anyway, the point is, being bullied is not reason
No.
enough to become a serial killer.
I don't know that the serial killer soup that people call it. I do believe in the dark triad, which is the Machiavellianism, sociopathy, and narcissism. I do believe in that. I believe that when people have those three mental health issues intermixing, I think that it doesn't. I don't even think that causes a serial killer. But I think if you mix that with maybe some frontal trauma and some sexual abuse, you're not asking for a good person. I think you're creating something that's not going to be great. But I don't see any of that in what I researched in Fry. What I see is a kid who got bullied a little bit when he gained some weight and somebody poured ketchup on his head and scared him. And he lost a loved one, which is terrible. Don't get me wrong, but we've all lost loved ones. I didn't beat a woman to death with a sledgehammer.
I literally lost
We'll
a
get to
loved
it.
one this week. So
Right. And I'm just saying, you're not going to go beat a woman to death with a sledgehammer. And he does. So that's, unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with. So 1991 was a big year for Fry. He became a volunteer firefighter at the age of 18. It was reported that Fry went out on a run as a volunteer firefighter, and a young man who was badly injured in an accident supposedly was supported by Fry staying with him, trying to comfort him as blood pooled and his life slipped away. That's from Monster Slayer. And this suggested that this moment left a deep imprint. Not horror exactly, but fascination.
What year was he a firefighter?
1991, he was a volunteer firefighter.
Oh, where?
Farmington, New Mexico. Because all of this is Farmington, New Mexico.
I wonder if my dad ever ran into him, because my dad was a fire chief for 21 years.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you got to understand, this is
My
part
dad
of
was a volunteer fire chief for 21 years.
I guarantee he ran into him because this is a
Absolutely.
small town. He was he was a volunteer firefighter.
Damn it, why did that guy die before I could ask him these questions?
wasn't his best friend a firefighter too? Or something?
Oh, yeah, I could ask
Ask
him.
his best friend. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I could ask him.
I can ask him.
I understand when we do stories like this is not somebody who existed in any kind of a vacuum. That's why I had such
That's
a visceral
crazy.
reaction to this.
This man
Is because-
absolutely touched several people's lives in several different ways.
In this building,
In this building.
No,
I
like,
mean,
as soon
people
as you
we
said a
know.
volunteer firefighter,
Yeah.
man, my heart dropped.
this is a person who lived here. He still lives in New Mexico. He's in prison, but he's still alive.
I guarantee you I met this man as a kid
Mhm.
because of who my father was.
That is
And I met him because D&D and Nights at the Kettle after...
You played D&D with this guy?
No, but he
Okay.
played D&D and I
I
did too.
almost did, but that's another
Yeah.
story.
Well, we had
So
had
crazy.
crossover because he was into role playing Vampire the Masquerade in D&D, which I'll mention later. But so we had crossover, but we used to have meetups after plays because I was in theater. We used to meet up, and we would meet up at the Kettle because it was a place where you could still smoke inside. You could smoke at the Kettle much further than other restaurants.
Yes.
They had stamped it out, and you still could at the Kettle, so people would go there because they could smoke.
It was like the last stand.
It was like the
in
last stand
New
here.
Mexico, I think.
It was
Pretty
damn
bad.
bad.
Close.
But yeah, so we used to go to the Kettle, and that's where he hung out. So that's how I bumped into him.
I'm also going to say I have this really weird thing where I hear serial killer stories and I always imagine them not being alive anymore. It's weird that he's alive and in jail.
He's in this state.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Crazy.
No, I
From
do
this
that
town.
because a lot of serial killer stories I hear,
Oh.
they are dead. And so when I hear a more modern one and then they're alive or in the state I'm in or whatever, I'm like,
Well,
yeah.
and if you feel weird after this because he is alive, because he is in the state that you're in, and he killed 2 people I knew, and you're sitting in the room with me, and he likely worked with Pixie's dad, it's a small town.
I mean, I know how small this town is.
It was even smaller back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
This is probably not the last crossover we're going to have because he was a local character. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So at the age of 18, he had the incident where he sat with the badly injured young man who was apparently killed. His life was slipping away, is what it said. And this had a fascination to him. The same year, Fry would discover Dungeons and Dragons, not as a hobby, but as a refuge. He also began abusing drugs and alcohol. That is why I never played with him. He was with groups abusing drugs. Well, I was pretty young. I mean, at this point, we're talking 91, so I'm like 15. He was just a little too rough for me.
I'm 6 years old in this moment.
In this scenario, you're 6 years old?
My mom was 20. My dad was 17. No, I think my mother was in Tennessee at this point, and my father was in Colorado.
So we are in no way saying that Dungeons and Dragons had anything to do with Fry's crimes, activities, drug use, or drinking. If you listen to our first episode, you know we don't think D&D does anything negative to anyone ever. But I just want to make sure that that's a part of this podcast.
I was going to say, I just shot my mom a text to see if she would remember if my dad ever ran into this guy.
And she might know. I mean, that's not something you say, oh, by the way, honey, before you were born, your dad used to work with a serial killer.
Not in some families, at least.
Well, we're not going to make judgments about different families.
I'm talking about mine.
So this is also a point where Fry began disconnecting from reality, which makes a little sense because with the drugs and alcohol,
they can mess up your head real bad.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of fantasy. He's on drugs and alcohol. At this point, he also appears to have sexually assaulted a female victim who was not killed. However, he was never convicted of this crime or even formally charged. This may have been because no one reported the crime at the time or because Fry would leave Farmington to join the Navy. He had enlisted in the Navy.
In the Navy, of all things? From New Mexico, and he enlisted in the Navy?
He can sail the 7 seas.
And lots of people, I tried to join the Navy. What are you trying to say?
Sorry.
There's no water here.
You know, it's funny. When you join the Navy, they'll take you to where water is.
I know. I just think it's funny. That's
My
the
joke
branch
flop.
he chose.
We're moving on.
In the Navy. So, no, he joined the U.S. Navy and was reported to serve no combat and no enemy engagement. He was in the military, but it was peacetime, and he didn't see any quote-unquote action. He was given a dishonorable discharge due to severe disciplinary issues and conduct that violated the Uniform Code of Military Justice. This was in 1994. I did try to look for more information on that. However, because it's military, that information is not going to be available. I think he'll be like 62 when it's available. They lock it up. I mean, yeah. They don't just release that information. It's all restricted it's restricted until they hit a certain age, till it's been in there. It has to be in the system for a number of years.
You have to have a certain clearance level to get to it.
Right.
I think family members can fill out forms and things, and there's ways, but not for me. I doubt that if I called the military and said, hey, I'm doing a podcast, they would have cared. So by 20...
It would have been a little bit funny, though.
I actually have tried to reach out to police to talk about other cases and ask questions, and so far no one's even returned my calls.
Maybe once we get some.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe once we become important.
If we ever become important, folks, make us important so that police officers return my calls. At least to tell me to shut up.
Nothing else, man.
A response is better than no response at all.
Yeah. So by 20, Fry had returned to New Mexico.
My mother was on a grand juror for this guy, but my dad did not meet him.
I don't think we can talk about that, though.
No, it's the trial's over.
Okay.
Your mom was part of the jury?
The grand jury. So the grand jury would have been the ones that processed the data, the information, and decided whether or not to charge him.
Yeah, she said it was 1998, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is wild.
I'm the only one that has no connection to this story.
You're not from this state.
I know.
And you know us, so the connections are coming.
You know what? That's as connected as I'm going to get.
Probably. Well, yeah,
because you want to be.
Yeah, you're not.
Yeah, no, he's not a good guy. So at this time, Fry would attempt multiple jobs: a volunteer firefighter, bouncer, oil field worker, security guard, and he would drive a van for a halfway house. but nothing would stick. Well, and it's interesting because the van for the halfway house reminded me of Ted Bundy doing the suicide hotline, But I don't know that he was doing anything. I don't think he was being ironic with his job choices. I just think he was looking for work and he was a pain in the ass who kept getting fired.
Probably.
So he continued to play D&D and Vampire the Masquerade. And this is about the time I met him. So I remember this. I didn't know anything about the guy, but after a play that I had been in and we were doing a cast party, we had it at the Kettle. During the cast party, we were talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and Fry approached me.
Do you remember what play you were in?
I'm pretty sure it was Death of a Salesman.
Oh, that's cool.
If I remember correctly.
Did you have a lot of younger people doing back set stuff at that time?
Yeah.
This is how I know him. I'm sorry, I just got real excited.
No.
Because it's finally clicking.
Oh, you were at the cast party.
I was at the cast party.
And I didn't know you because I was front house and you were back of house.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
I actually put here this. Thorn likely met him around this point too.
Okay, so it was probably the same night
that
he approached you.
Just so you guys know, Thorn Wolf and I have had many conversations where we have realized that we have
crossed paths a billion times.
We're friends now, but we think we've probably crossed paths 100 times.
Because I did theater in high school, and this is before that, and this is what actually made me do high school theater. Because I was with a couple of my older friends doing...
Well, what's funny about that is I probably didn't really recognize you were in
I was a little child.
You were little.
I was a baby.
I was a teenager. You were a kid.
I was a fat little shit with fucking sideburns.
Okay, I was going to say my mom just got back to me, and it turns out that my dad didn't join the fire department until the year after.
There it is.
He got arrested.
Because remember also that he did come back, and at this point, he did become a volunteer firefighter again. But he was not a firefighter for long the first time because he became one in 1991. He had the experience of the young man in the crash who bled out. And then he immediately joined the military, possibly to get away from the sexual assault.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Bobby approached my table, and just started talking role-playing with us. And if you have ever been a role player or been a part of any Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering card games or Vampire the Masquerade, you hear someone talking about it and it's almost an automatic in. You can automatically start talking to them and you're all buddies almost immediately because you all play these games.
Yeah, nerds become friends fast.
Bobby and I had a conversation that night about vampires. And this is what I remember about him, was that he wanted to talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula and what crap it was. Well, he just thought it was just like, as the vampire stories go, it just wasn't that good and whatnot. And I was offended. And I thought he was I just didn't like him.
I'm also offended.
Pretentious.
He was pretentious. Well, not even so much pretentious, but it's just like he wanted to prove something to me. He wanted to tell me that I was younger than him. So he might have been trying to be all... I don't know what he was going for, but I didn't like him. And so when he asked me if I wanted to play a vampire with him, I said no.
He approached your table in the smoking section at the Kettle. You guys had your argument, and I asked him, "What are you guys talking about?"
Oh, so you remember this conversation?
Yeah. No. Like, oh my.
Yeah.
Jason.
No, you were there. I was at that table.
Do you remember a kid asking, like, what is Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
I do.
Me. That was you.
That was me.
But you were so young and you looked totally different, so I didn't recognize you 30 years later.
Okay, wait a minute, hold on. Are you saying that Jason's the reason you know about Dungeons and Dragons?
Holy shit.
It's a small world. Small town, folks. He now runs a gaming shop.
Listen.
It's
shit.
A cover.
It's a cover from my cover band. The
Bandigans.
The bag ends. I like that.
That's not okay either.
Oh,
I said the Bandigans, not the Baggins.
So,
I'm a nerd. What do you expect?
I'm just going to qualify that all of this is staying in and probably will be turned up. So, no, I'm kidding.
But that's still insane that Jason's the reason you know about Dungeons and Dragons.
Or just that you got into it. And I do think I remember because you came and talked to us at the table, too.
Yeah, no, we were, and then...
I remember you. I just didn't realize it was you.
Is the gentleman, the big gentleman,
right.
Because, like... he was
really,
weird.
really, yeah. Oh, you're talking about Robert.
I'm talking about Robert.
Mhm.
As I was talking to your guys' table, because you were talking about D&D
Right.
and Vampire of the Masquerade, he comes up while I'm standing at your table and says, like, I got a game going this blah, 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 blah. Do you want to go? I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah, he invited me too, and
Yeah.
but I'm not playing Vampire the Masquerade with somebody who doesn't like Bram Stoker's Dracula. Come on,
Right?
you gotta love
Absolutely.
Dracula.
I do have a real quick question. What is Vampire the Masquerade? Because I know there's a video game called that.
We should do a podcast, like
A game?
No,
Is it a tabletop?
No, we shouldn't do a game. But yes, it is a tabletop. But we
Mhm.
should do a podcast. We should do an episode
About
on Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay,
Maybe
and
one of
did
these
the
days.
video game come from the tabletop
Yes,
Yes,
game?
it
Because
did.
there is one called Vampire Masquerade Swan Song or something. and it's
Bloodlines.
on my wish
Bloodlines,
list
yeah.
because I thought it looked cool because it was about vampires and
Play
I
it.
didn't know it had anything to do with anything
So-
else.
Play it.
There was a game, I think it came out in the 90s, could have been the 1980s, I'd have to look it up, called Vampire the Masquerade by a company called White Wolf. And it's a great game. It's a
Which-
great game.
White Wolf is also a game. It just has to deal with werewolves.
Nope, that was Rage.
Oh, that was Rage.
That was Rage.
But it
White
was
Wolf
also
is
made.
the White Wolf was the
Yeah, that's
overarching, just the production company.
This was
And then
decades
there
ago.
was,
Like, like, I'm sorry, my bad.
yeah, I'm the old guy and I remembered.
Pixie, you want to play a game about vampires?
But there was vampire and there was werewolf, and they did Fae, the Dreaming, and
And Pixies.
there were pixies. So it was about this time that Fry also began hanging out in a small retail store here in Farmington, New Mexico, called the Eclectic. A retail store in Farmington, New Mexico. The store focused on metaphysical and fantasy items, selling crystals, occult items, role-playing game books, knives, and swords.
As we have established, I'm not from here. Where was that store at? I want to know.
Ooh. Okay, so the Eclectic was down before, like, just before you hit Main Street, right after
Downtown Main Street.
Yeah, downtown Main Street. Right after Big Five and
So after Big Five, but before the roundabouts?
yes,
Yes.
Okay, cool.
yes,
And it was
on the left if you're going to downtown.
Yeah,
Main
if
Street.
you're driving downtown, it would have
It's
been
like
there
a
on
little-
the left.
Well, I don't know what it is now. In fact, I don't think I should say what it is now. even
Probably
though
not.
I do remember it, but
It sounds like it was probably near where my tattoo guy has his shop. Thorin is saying I'm wrong, so do not
I
look for a
can
tattoo shop.
absolutely, I can show it to you. It's like it is the last building, and it's literally like big building, little tiny building,
Yeah.
right on the side of it.
Okay.
So the Eclectic, like I said, it sold occult items, and unfortunately, the knives and swords they sold will come into Fry's first kills.
No.
So- On November 29th, 1996, late at night, inside the Eclectic, where many of the friends to the owner were allowed to come, he would occasionally let people sleep there if they needed a place to get away from situations. I wasn't one of those on the inside, but I was aware that there were people who would stay late, hang out late, role play well into the early morning. Two of the regular members of the Eclectic group, Joseph Fleming and Matthew Trecker. And the reason I grew up with Matt, he and I went to school for many years. His name was not Trecker to me. It was Frank, Matthew Frank. And I did see in his obituary, they said Matthew Trecker, and then in parentheses, they said Frank, but made no explanation for why.
Why? Okay.
I don't know. Well, maybe he was adopted. Maybe he had
Yeah.
multiple names. There's reason people have other names. When I saw this after he passed away, the Matthew Trecker, was strange to me because I knew him as Matthew Frank. But in November 29th, 1996, Matt, Joe, and Bobby Fry were in the Eclectic late at night. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what happened. One, because I don't want to give any possibility of people having to relive what happened, and because these were my friends, and I don't want to talk about how they died. But I will say that Bobby killed both of them that night, using weapons that were available, or makeshift, if you will, at the Eclectic. Now, as I said, Matt and I grew up together. We had more friends in common. We were more acquaintances. But we had classes together, and I knew him well enough to know that he was a nice guy, you know. Joe, I knew a lot better. Joseph Fleming and I worked together. I was a cashier at the day-by-day calendar company connected to Walden Books.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
So I worked for Walden Books, and I sold calendars over the Christmas season.
This is some throwback, guys.
Some throwback.
This was when I was a mall rat.
Yep.
A mall rat.
That job is where I bumped into Joe, and Joe just walked by every single day when I was selling calendars. He would just walk by, and I didn't know him. You know, Joe would start to walk by, and I always remember he would pick up a calendar of a supermodel. Very big at the time. Her name was Kathy Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
Kathy Ireland. I know that name.
You do know that name? Okay. She's a very beautiful woman, and she was a very famous model at the time in the 90s. And Joe just was crazy about Kathy Ireland, and he would pick up that calendar every day, and, you know, he wasn't weird about it. He would just joke around and be like, someday we'll meet Kathy, you know, and it was just, he was joking around, and he was a funny guy, and he started just hanging out with me. And so over that Christmas season, he and I got to know each other, and we were friends, I would say. You know, at least I liked him, and we hung out a lot. And almost every night that I worked, he would come by, and we would talk about calendars, and we would talk about role playing, and that was, like I said, the Christmas season. I had started working for Walden Books, I believe, in August, and then in November, Bobby killed him. And so I remember the shock. I remember, you know, the feeling of someone who had been there. You know, every time I walked by that Kathy Ireland calendar, it was like a stab in the gut, because there was this guy, and he was this really nice guy who I had gotten to know, who, you know, hopes and dreams. He was just a sweet dude. And, you know, that's not to take anything away from Matt. You know, Matt seemed like a really good guy too, but I didn't have quite that personal connection. I just went to school with him. But I remember, and this is the point when I was writing this script, that I was hit and actually had to stop for a bit before I could come back, was because this was a really hard moment. I was, I think, 17. What year is it? It's 96. I graduated at 18 in 97. So yeah, I'm 17 years old. And I, you know, this guy who comes over and tells jokes, you know, tells dirty jokes and talks about how pretty Kathy Ireland is. And then he's just gone. And not just gone. You know, I remember wondering, you know, being 17 years old, his family, and it hit me. And so, you know, that's what happened. And the murders were brutal and horrible. I will say, and this is the only thing I'm going to say, he did attempt to remove Joe's head.
Oh.
It was bad. So when I say mean things about Mr. Fry later in the script, please take that. And if you have a problem with me saying negative things about Mr. Fry, or if Mr. Fry ever should hear this and wants to comment in his prison time, I would love a death threat from an asshole serial killer. I'll frame it and put it up on my wall.
Did Robert act alone?
So I put something in here that's in the wrong place. So at this point, it was believed that he was alone. So at the Eclectic, It was believed he was alone just with Matt and Joe. Like, they just think that I can say that he attempted to use a sword that was on the wall at the Eclectic, and it broke because it was not a real sword. It was a wall hanger. It was a wall hanging sword. It was a decorative piece.
Mall samurai sword.
If you want to know, you can look it up, but it's not important to this story.
So later in life, Jason, in high school,
okay,
I had a friend who was an ex-cop.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why he had these.
Okay.
But I saw first account crime scene photos.
Yeah. No, I don't want to see those.
You don't want to see
I don't want to see those, no. Yeah,
no,
I would
also,
never.
You shouldn't be showing those to people.
Probably not.
No, his kid, it wasn't him.
Oh, it was the kid.
Okay.
It was my
Yeah.
friend. We were all delinquents.
Showing dad's stuff that he shouldn't have had. Yeah.
Like, check these out. This is from that murder.
I mean, I've looked at crime scene photos, but not of a kid I went to high school with, and not of a guy I hung out and talked about Cathay Ireland and drank coffee with. I mean, it hits different when you know somebody who they killed.
Real quick, I was going to say too, like, both me and Ginger are frequent true crime podcast listeners, true crime YouTube, the whole thing. This is a lot harder to listen to and process just because
you're sitting across this table from somebody who's actually hurting once they talk about it. Yeah.
Yes. Like
I'm like, tearing up
I
a little.
can see it on your face. Like
it's also bringing up feelings for me, at least, of people I've lost.
It's hard
in tragic ways.
to hear about. Yeah, it's hard to.
About. It's easy to distance yourself from the feelings of a case if you're not part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's good that we're telling the story, even though it hurts, because I think it's good for people to hear the emotions of it.
I also want to let you know, like, I'm just telling accounts of what happened.
Oh, of course.
Like with me on this side, I mean, absolutely no disrespect.
Of course not. No. This is actually just my first murder. It's not my last. I had another friend
crazy.
I had another friend who a few years after this, when I was in my early 20s, was murdered for being gay. He came out as gay and rubbed some people the wrong way, and they shot him in the face with a shotgun. And so, this is unfortunately, I've just had a few murders in my life that have for people that were close. And, I liked Joe a lot, and we were buddies. The gentleman who was killed for being gay, he was my friend.
Yeah.
Like hung out every day, buddy, kind of like, Ginger and Pixie hang out every day.
Mm-hmm. And if we're not hanging out, we're actively talking to each other on the phone.
He was a part of a group of college students, and he was murdered. And I remember a lot of things. I remember that was the first time I saw a body that, because I saw him in the funeral home after they put him back together, and the feeling of looking at someone that doesn't look like themselves anymore because they had to do a lot to put him back together. So, I mean, it's when you see these things, and that's one thing that I want to put into this that I think is important, is that people are left destroyed after these things. People are left to survive. And it's never the same, Matt had a mom. When I looked up the stuff with Matt today, there was a poem left by his mom. And, oh, man, I was crying too. And Pixie is currently crying, and that's okay. We love you. And it's okay. You are human. If you listen to our last episode, I'm going to quote Dr. Brenner. Because Dr. Brenner used to cry when we would lose hospice patients. And he said, I'm a human. Crying is normal. It's natural. And I'm doing it because I loved the person who I lost. And there's nothing wrong with that. So don't you feel bad about crying. I cried earlier today. Robert Fry killed my friend. And he killed my classmate. And for a while, he got away with it. And that was really, really hard on a lot of people. The owner of the Eclectic eventually closed up his shop and left town. It changed a lot of people, and it hurt a lot of lives. Bobby, however, continued. September 2nd, 1997, Fry picked up a woman and drove her to a secluded location. Then he threatened the woman, whose name I'm not going to say because she is a survivor, and I don't feel like I have the right to say her name. So since I can't ask her, I don't feel right saying it. But he threatened this woman with a gun. He assaulted her, but she survived because she fought back and managed to run away, even with a gun in her face. April 1st, 1998, he killed a man named Donald Sosi. Now, Donald had come to Farmington to donate plasma. Reportedly, he'd been drinking when Fry and his accomplice, a man named Leslie Ung, who cares? He's a killer. We don't like him. They offered him a ride, and instead they took him out into the desert and attempted to, and I put on here that they quote-unquote rolled him. Now, I want to, rolling is a very racist, very horrible term that has existed and was not at all uncommon when I was a young man. Teenage boys going to find a drunk Navajo person, beat them up, throw them in the desert, and steal their money. So he took Mr. Sosi out into the desert and attempted to rob him. When he fought back, he beat him and then threw him off of a cliff where he passed away.
I never knew the term rolling like that. It was mostly to beat somebody up and take their money. That's
and it was specifically natives. That. Was that when I was young? It was, and I mean,
I don't think we cared who it was when I was, you know
right.
what I mean? Like, but that's the 7-year difference.
That's the 7-year difference.
That's the 7-year difference.
Yeah. It was Native Americans when I was young. I mean, it was definitely, okay. And I don't want to get too far into it, but I did plays and there were teenagers, and occasionally as a young man in the 80s, I was early 80s, so I'm like 4, 5, 6, I would be in settings, and I very clearly remember a group of white teenage boys talking about rolling Navajos on the weekend. And I asked what it meant. And a man explained it to me, and it was a Navajo man explained it to me because I was a part of there's a play that ran here for many, many years called the Anasazi Pageant. And it was play about the development of the Mormons coming to this area and settling and stories of the Native Americans in this area. And there were a lot of Native Americans in the play. And so I asked that question because I'd heard these boys talking about it. I'm like, what is it? What's rolling a Navajo? And he said, come here. And he sat me down and he explained it to me. And I remember being horrified then. So that was when I was little. You know, unfortunately, folks, we're doing stories in Farmington because there's a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
Getting back to our story, there's another story. It's not been verified. But in May 29th, 1998, Fry became a suspect in the disappearance of Parnell. Oh, I am going to butcher this name. Please forgive me. Parnell.
Tarragonatera?
Something to that effect. Yes. A 22-year-old who was unfortunately never conclusively proven to be a victim of Fry, but that's because he disappeared. But the last official murder, and this one is rough, so warning to our listeners. On June 9th, 2000, when Fry was 27 years old, he killed a woman named Betty Lee. Betty was a 36-year-old mother and nursing student and was stranded at a convenience store when her friends reportedly drove off, leaving her. Fry and his same accomplice, Leslie Ng, spotted her at the payphone and offered her a ride. Instead of taking her home, the two took her to a remote part of the San Juan County desert and attempted to sexually assault her. When she resisted and fought, they stabbed her in the back. Still alive and fighting her abductors, fighting for her life, Fry followed her with a sledgehammer and bludgeoned her to death. 2 days later, on June 11th, 2000, Robert Fry was finally arrested and his killing spree was over. On April 18th, 2001, he was convicted of Betty Lee's murder and sentenced to death. August 2003, he was convicted of murdering Donald Sosi and given a life sentence. Fall of 2004, he was convicted of the murders of Joseph Fleming and Matthew Trecker, but he is suspected of up to 7 murders.
So how did he get away with it for so long?
Well, I mean, really, if you think about it, it wasn't... You know, his final conviction was in 2004, but he was arrested in 2000. And his first murders were in 1996 in the Eclectic. So we're really only talking about 4-year time. And for serial killers, that's not, I mean, he actually wasn't that good of a serial killer. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you from personal accounts when this happened, everybody knew it was Bobby. Everyone. The police would come and they would question anybody who'd ever been to the Eclectic. I mean, the police did a thorough job. They were trying really hard. The police asked, you know, do you know anyone? Is there anyone you could think of? You know, Bobby wasn't like the other killers you've heard of where people are like, oh, he was the quietest guy in the world. He was so nice. I could never believe he'd do anything. I was so shocked. No,
he was great.
He was the opposite. Everybody, if you said, who did this? Everyone said, oh, Bobby Fry did this.
So if everyone said that, was it just lack of evidence that kept him free for as long as he was free?
So there are a lot of theories. The police know more than I think they're allowed to say. I don't know. There are suggestions of, you know, people making false investigations, pretending to be police officers. You know, I've heard stories But it also could be that, I mean, if you think about it, 4 years later, he was arrested. And within 4 years of that, within 8 years, he went to prison. Look at BTK. You know, that took many, many years. They actually caught him and convicted him relatively quickly.
That's there.
Okay, I have a question. This could probably not be... This could be something completely different, but when I look up Robert Fry on, like, photos and stuff like that, he's always next to this guy named Timothy Allen.
Okay.
Is there a connection there?
Who is Timothy didn't come Allen? Up, you know, and unfortunately, that could just be a friend. I mean, he didn't come up in my research.
I mean, like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, this is just like, or was he also convicted at the same time he was?
Oh, no. That, I know who that is. Okay, so he is another killer.
Oh, okay.
Who was also sentenced to death. And spoiler alert, Mr. Thorne has decided to jump us forward in the script.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, man.
I was curious, and I have a computer for once in front of me.
Yes. So I told you that for Betty Lee's murder, he was sentenced to death. Mm-hmm. Robert Fry's still alive. New Mexico has now commuted the death penalty. We don't have it anymore. And so the man that you're talking about that he's next to is another man who there was 2 people left on with death row who were awaiting execution. And the guy you're seeing him next to is the other killer, if I'm not mistaken. Please don't quote me on that. If I'm mistaken, folks, don't yell at me.
He's also from New Mexico.
Right. But I think he just killed one woman, if I'm not mistaken. I think he killed one woman, but it was pretty horrible. But
no, of course.
I
just didn't know what was going on because like it's
both of them had their death sentences commuted to life in prison.
Okay.
So I think that they pop up a lot because that was kind of a big deal. Yeah, kind of a big deal, I guess. So I'll get to that. So Fry sat on death row, and New Mexico, as I said, reconsidered capital punishment. His death sentence was vacated, and he is now serving multiple consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole or release. And basically, that's kind of the end of his story. He's just going to sit there till he dies. Which, you know, Robert Fry was a disorganized thrill killer. He seemed to prey on victims of opportunity who, like many other sociopaths, were killed with no remorse. And he did so just because he wanted to.
So have you ever heard of the Mandela effect?
Yes. Lots.
In a version of the Mandela effect in my brain, he was the last one to die in New Mexico.
Yeah, we had this conversation. You thought he was, when we talked about doing this episode, you told me he was dead. And I'm like, no, dude, he's not dead.
Yeah, I think it's okay if we talk about it now that he's dead. I swear I thought I had watched it.
That's crazy.
That's a pretty wild Mandela effect.
No, but Mandela effect is a thing. Well, no, it's the same thing. The thing that Mandela effect is named after
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Yes, thank you. Nelson
Mandela. Believed that he had died in prison.
Yeah. This is the exact same scenario in my brain.
That's crazy.
You believed he died in prison, and then I told you no luck, no such luck. We can only hope. Let's put him in Gen Pop. So, Monster Slayer, the book, argues that Fry wasn't chasing death, that he was chasing meaning, and that violence became a way to feel real. Fear became identity. Power became proof of existence. It's an interesting line. I don't discredit that book, and I'm not suggesting that it's wrong, but I have a different view. I think Fry was one of the most boring serial killer cases I've ever researched or even heard of. He was not complicated, tortured. He wasn't a particularly interesting person. I don't think he's a useful psychological study. He just killed people because he wanted to. There was little evidence that anything other than some bullying and a grandmother dying, things that we all deal with, and we all get on with that without killing people. You know, getting ketchup poured on his head. I mean, I really felt like they were reaching a little bit. You know, not getting to use your right hand is not a justification for murdering my friend.
No.
And so I'm just going to say, and I said, please forgive me for my opinions later in the podcast, and we're here. Unlike most killers, where, as I said before, people say it wasn't expected, Bobby Fry was the one that everybody expected to kill someone. He wasn't special. He wasn't important. He didn't give the world anything. What he did was take. He wasn't interesting. I don't feel like there's a lot we can learn from him, except maybe that people with obvious mental health issues shouldn't be missed or ignored, that we need to be aware about these obvious mental health issues or face the possibility that innocent people might pay the price. This has been the Arkins Hearth. I have stunned my co-host into sad silence.
Oh, man. Brought to you by Not Dead Yet Productions.
Listen, man, the emotions got rough in that last
A little bit, yeah.
You know, it's interesting
Well, this one hit home.
because people in the last episode when we were talking about John, you guys said that you didn't talk as much because you were kind of into the story because John was such a cool guy. And it's just so funny. And I mean, I'm glad that you guys talked a lot more this time. Thank God.
Yeah.
Don't just leave me alone. It's an interesting story and it's very local. I mean, these are things like, you know, we're talking about, oh, don't worry. You want to know where the Eclectic is? Let's just drive down the road 5 minutes and I'll show it to you. You want to talk about, you know, we just discovered, and I can't believe we didn't know, folks, and I know it's probably going to seem like that was staged. It was not.
Absolutely not.
That my first
so
time that
crazy.
one of my closest friends in the world right now, a guy that I'm doing a podcast with, a guy that, you know, I'm a part of his store.
I have brain dabblage from motorcycle
Dabblage?
accidents. Dabblage? Brain dabblage.
I didn't know your brain could get dabbled.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dabble. Anyway, so I forget things, and things
Right.
kind of just meld into a melding pot of information and then get swirled around and lost. And every once in a while, some jerk will absolutely help me remember how much of a creep Robert Fry is.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because you and I had talked about this case, and we talked about how both of us had met
But
him.
until you said the kettle,
Right.
and the cast party and death of a
Right.
salesman, and I had not put two.
You had to put it all together.
Yeah, like I'm listening and I'm like, my eyes are getting as big as the room.
No, I actually saw it. I'm sitting here reading it.
Crazy, dude.
No,
And-
Pixie and I were sitting here like,
Yeah,
what
we're like,
the
what's
actual
going on,
heck?
Like,
dude?
I
Like,
could see.
We're
I was
having
like
a-
seeing the gears turn in your head as you're like putting it together. It looked like the end of The Fugitive when they're looking at the board of the pack, going, "Oh my God, he is Kaiser
It was
Sose."
here all along.
Yeah. No, it's a strange.
what?
It's a strange thing because it is such a small town. And, you know, I am not shocked that Pixie's family was connected to this.
I am a little.
I'm not. It's a small town.
I just
You're
can't
young.
imagine. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah. It kind of was an open wound in this town for a while.
Ginger feels so left out.
Do we need to
Listen.
go to your home state and find someone to talk about?
No, you know who I have to talk about.
Oh, I know.
Later
Oh,
episode.
We'll get there.
Lordy.
Pixie's so excited for that episode. I'm not.
We're going to stay in the local for the first 40 or so episodes, but then when we branch out, that may be our first one.
Oh, joy.
How many episodes have we done so far?
This is episode 7.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I was right.
But yeah, folks, that was it's a little bit hard to talk about because, and ironically, you know, I almost feel bad being so choked up about it because compared to other people that I met, people that I knew, this didn't even hit me nearly as hard as it hit them. I mean, these people had families in this area. These people had close friendships. And so I think that's a lot of why, you know, I actually wondered writing this, if you go to these other towns where serial killers killed people, do the young people there say, oh, I've never heard of that case? Do people not talk about it in the town of origin? I wonder that.
Well, a lot of these places are bigger cities.
That's true too.
This is the reason that this one kind of stands out is because Farmington's not that big now and was absolutely smaller in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I can guarantee you any small town that has had something like
Or
this happen,
early 2000s.
like, they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
They were friends with that guy. They knew his uncle. They knew his brother.
They played
Like,
Dungeons and Dragons with them.
There's
Right.
there's a lot of people, and you know, I might get people who disagree with my script on this. You know, there might be people who walk up to me in the street and say that's not what happened, and if it is, you know, I will listen to you. By no means am I saying that I know everything. This is very much the official story, and this is what has been written about. I know, folks, and you know, those of you out there who know my name and I know yours, I know that there are other stories about this. And I know that you might have wanted me to talk about those things, the suggestions of missing evidence, the suggestions of police cover-ups, all of that. But I don't know that any of that's true. You may know, you may have been there. I wasn't. And I'm trying to put on a podcast here.
However, with that said, we talked about this. We did not want to cover this story at first.
I had a lot of trouble getting to this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we will not be revisiting this.
No, probably not.
At all, ever.
I mean, unless, you know, Fry calls me and says, come interview me, then I'd do that.
I'm going with you.
Yeah, I'd do that in a second. But just because I would want to not, and actually, no, you know what? I wouldn't. I don't want to give him a platform. I really don't. This is as much as I ever want to do for that
Let's get
guy.
that part out then.
Yeah, I'm going to cut that out. Or I might not cut it out. I might let people hear that I changed my mind in real time. Because
He's not worth it.
he's not an interesting serial killer. I mean, it's like, and I'm not trying to say that I think that serial killers' actions or pasts ever justify their actions. I don't believe that. But as a person who spent 9 years studying psychology, I have an interest in the way their minds work. I believe studying their minds can help us to catch others. I believe that it helps us to understand the human condition. There's a lot of reasons why I think the study of serial killers, plus, hey, I grew up watching Murder, She Wrote with my mom.
I love Murder, She Wrote.
I mean,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh, yes.
I've been into
Not like
murder,
that.
you know, I've been into mysteries and crime my whole life. So true crime to me is that psychological connection. It's a connection to the murder mysteries of my childhood. But at least those are interesting stories. This just seems like a kind of racist redneck who killed some folk.
Let me rephrase. I meant to say I've heard you talk about that a lot. I used the very wrong phrasing, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Love you.
I'm confused. I'm
I am
confused.
so confused what we were talking about.
I said, I love Murder, She Wrote.
And then I go,
and
that's
pick-
all you talk about, but that's not what I meant.
They didn't mean to say it that way.
Oh, okay.
They meant I talk about it a lot because I like it.
I
Yeah.
meant I've heard about a lot of it from
Angela
like,
Lansbury
someone else.
rocked, man.
So, for research purposes, I looked up Kathy Ireland modeling young. And is it me that she just feels like she's looking at the camera saying, can I have my sandwich now?
Okay, I have to look at these pictures now. Show me this.
Wait, I want to see this too.
Hold on. I'll look it up on my
Yeah,
computer.
you look it up for me. Oh my god.
Yeah,
He just fell
I
out
don't
of
know.
his chair.
She's very pretty.
Yeah, I see it.
You know,
Hold on.
it's interesting because just
I
looking
see
Am
at
I wrong?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so right, dude. That's crazy.
Like, can I have my sandwich
She said,
now?
okay.
she's
I'm
very
ready, but
thin,
give me
some-
so
But
I don't
feel
think
like-
she
I
ate
feel
that
like in a lot of
sandwich.
pictures, her smile doesn't reach her eyes. I
No.
mean, that's like part of it.
100%.
Okay, guys,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
no being mean to Kathy Ireland.
No,
She
no,
is
No, I'm
gorgeous.
just making a
Absolutely.
statement.
Miss Ireland, if you're
I'm just
listening,
making
we're
a
so
statement.
sorry. That was a joke. She's not listening to this.
She probably laughed. If
Yeah,
she has any
hopefully,
sense of
hopefully.
humor. Anyway, so maybe we cut that out too.
Yeah, you can
Anyway.
take it.
Oh, I doubt it. We're keeping that in.
Oh, no.
So, folks, thank you very much. This is the episode. I don't want to talk about it anymore, and I don't ever want to talk about it again, to be honest with you. And it's one that, unfortunately, I think, are still recovering from to a point. You know, like you, I mean, when you have the youth, which I'm sitting at this table with, not even know about this case, it's an interesting thing because these are true crime fans. These are people who do a lot of researching in true crime, and they don't even know about the serial killer that lived over there.
In the
Order.
town that we're in.
Right.
That's crazy.
And back in the day, this is all anybody would talk about.
That's
Like,
true
for
too.
For a minute.
For a minute, the 90s. I mean, I remember
Early 2000s.
the early 2000s, pretty much when he started getting convicted, I felt it start to drop off. Like, he didn't matter anymore. He was gone forever.
Yes and no.
I
I don't know. That's
It also might have been that when people brought it up, I got to a point where I just walked away.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
You know,
That's
and I mean,
understandable.
and I have friends who were struck really hard with this. I have a friend who was literally at the Eclectic like hours before Matt and Joe died and had considered staying up with them that night.
That is so freaking, dude.
You know, I have a friend who wonders if he would have been lying on the ground next to them.
Well, and that's crazy too, because they talk about like survivor's guilt and stuff,
Mhm.
man. Like,
Oh, and he definitely had
That-
moments where
that
he
is
was
rough.
like,
That is rough.
could I have helped them if I was there?
That is
Mhm.
rough.
If I'd been there, would I be dead on the ground next to them? I mean, it's local, folks, and local's real. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate you listening. We appreciate your love. My name is Michael Jason Chandler. Thank you for listening.
My name is Thorin Wolf. Thank you for joining us today.
My pretend name is the Ginger.
Pretending, yes.
See you next time.
This is the Pixie. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Good night.